Hey everyone, it's Kelly. Welcome back to Houseplants Gone Wild. Wanted to do a video today on some plants that I've noticed struggled in 2020. I've had a few plants that didn't make it, and I think I know why, but I want to share with you what I think happened. Some of them are still hanging on, barely, like this little plant here. 2 leaves, but we'll cover that in a bit. As well as I want to cover some of the plants that really thrived this winter and the care that I've been providing them. And then on the very end of the video, I want to kind of cover some of the plants that I'm hoping to possibly acquire in 2021. They're sort of just wish list plants, ones that I've never had before. There is some plants that I have had that were thriving and I've sold just to clear up space. So possibly this year I'll be getting those again. Maybe not. Maybe. We'll see. Thanks again for watching, and any of you who like and subscribe to videos. Really useful. Happy to hear any comments or any sort of tips or tricks that you find works for you. And yeah, hope you enjoy this video. So I should clarify that a lot of these plants that I've struggled with, I think I know why, but there's always some sort of undermining issue that I might overlook. Things like overwatering, too much light, not enough light, things like that I can usually try and figure out, but if it's more than one, if it's low light and watering and stuff, I still sometimes struggle with that. So the biggest one I would say is Calatheas. So this used to be a Calathea orbifolia. It's completely dead. I checked the roots the other day. The roots are fine, but I shouldn't say it's completely dead. All the growth up top completely gone. This plant started to get sort of yellow edges, so I cut back the watering a little bit just to keep it from getting overwatered throughout the winter. And then it stopped getting yellow, but it just started turning brown. And within a few days, I noticed that brown starting to creep up and up further into the leaf, and now it's just a crunchy little leaf. So Calathea orbifolia is one that I've definitely struggled with. I have another one that I have in leca growing medium, and I keep in the humidity box, and it's doing better. Still has, brown leaf tips, even though the humidity in there is around 90%. It still has them. Could be due to watering. I do water the plants, like Calatheas and Stramanthe, quite a few of them actually, with rainwater that I kept through the summer, and I have it sort of bottled up. But as you can see here, it's got beautiful, nice leaves. This leaf right here, this is actually a new one that just unfurled, and yeah, it seems to be a happy plant. I've tried a couple times taking it out of the humidity box to more so enjoy the plant. I feel like plants that are in that box, I don't really get to see them that often. The windows are always fogged up or whatever, so once in a while I'll take it out, but I noticed this one is quite quick to turn on me, so I haven't really been able to enjoy it as a plant so much yet. It's more so been a headache. I have found that Calatheas, they don't really need it warm, so to speak. Like, a bathroom is usually cooler, higher humidity. They seem to do really well in a bathroom as long as it's close to a north-facing window or it's getting enough light. I did have, this is another one. This is a Calathea White Fusion. Used to be huge, and then I divided it and made the mistake of, I feel like, over dividing it. Calatheas, you can't cut them and do propagations that way. You have to actually take them out of the soil and divide them that way. So yeah, this is one that I had left that I divided and put it in this little container. You can see there's some yellow leaves on it, some new growth, some smaller leaves for sure. It's still hanging in there. This was a really popular plant last year, early in 2020. But I did notice it's one of the plants that I first encountered spider mites with, and I encountered them sort of at full force. They quite quickly devoured the plant that I had originally taken these cuttings or these sort of divisions from, and so it's been hanging in there ever since. But I have this one on our windowsill in our bathroom that is north facing, high humidity, a little bit cooler, but it seems to be liking it there. It's putting out lots of new little tiny leaves, so that's one thing with Calatheas. If you're finding that they're struggling in the winter time, don't overwater them. They can quite quickly yellow, and they don't go dormant, but they require a lot less water than most people think. And I really struggled with overwatering, and this is the example of overwatering. This was is a Stramanthe trio star. This was huge, it was big, it was nice and full and bushy, and I did not adjust my watering hand actually last winter, and it sort of struggled, came back in the spring and the summertime, and then this winter I kept up with old habits, I guess, bad habits, and it just started yellowing, and it didn't even really yellow, it just started dropping and dropping leaves. And one thing I did notice is the soil was very waterlogged. So as you can see on the top, I've got extra perlite mixed into the soil here. It's very, not loose soil, but it's a very arid soil mixture. And it's in terracotta pot. And ever since I did that, it seems to be hanging in there. I have this by my humidity sort of case or humidity box, and it does really well there because it's getting artificial light. It gets a very mild indirect natural sunlight, but mostly it's just getting its light from artificial light, and it's hanging in there. It hasn't put out any new growth, but I did actually bring it into this room here where I have, as you can see behind me here, a bunch of these. These are just some sunblaster light bulbs, and they're quite bright. They work really well. In here I can control the humidity levels a lot better. I have a fan that comes on for 8 hours for the day, just to keep air circulation. That's a huge thing with having this many plants in this small of a room, quite crowded together. But yeah, so overwatering, usually it's a sign, or it's shown with yellow leaves, and then they'll turn brown and sort of crisp up and die like this orbifolia. But yeah, so one thing is that's one example of overwatering. Another plant that I have really struggled with ever since I got it, basically, is this little guy. And this is a Monstera Peru. These little twigs. It had 2 leaves on it about a month ago, and they just dropped. I don't actually really know. This is one of those plants that, it's a couple things, I'm sure, all mixing in. It is a Monstera. I have it in quite, a loose mixture, like I have all of my Monsteras and Philodendrons. They're all in a mixture with cococoir and worm castings and perlite, a little bit of orchid bark. And it was doing well soil-wise. I feel like for this one, though, it's more so about watering and lighting. Like, I've tried it keeping the soil a little bit more moist and in higher light. Didn't really grow, didn't like it. Put it in lower light with some moist soil, same thing. And then I tried dry soil and low light, dry soil and high light. I put it in the humidity box, and nothing. Like, it puts out 2 leaves and then they die, and then I end up with these little twigs. It's quite loose in there. I don't want to pull it out and make a huge mess, but I did check the roots, and there's no root rot. There's no bug infestation, not like this one used to have the spider mites. Yeah, so Monstera Peru. I'll see if I can put a little picture up here on the side of some of these plants as I go along. But yeah, this one, I'll show you what it used to look like when I first got it, and then it comes and goes. So maybe it just goes dormant in the winter. Kind of doubt it. It's not a very like tuberous root plant. Most philodendrons and monsteras I have found don't go dormant. Speaking of which, I don't have it here anymore because it's gone. But caladiums, those are definitely a plant that I've struggled with because they do go dormant. Usually in the wintertime, they start just dropping back and falling leaves and everything, and then you have to match your watering to that, and then eventually you just stop watering them when you start to notice they're getting tired and going to go dormant for the rest of the winter. Yeah, so I did manage to keep one of the bulbs. It's just a bulb. Kind of looks like a little piece of garlic. And it's still in soil. It's dried. It's in a sort of a cool, dry place. And then in the springtime, I'm going to bring it out, give it some warmth, give it lots of light, water it down really good, and hopefully it'll come back. So another one that struggled with is, I believe I've mentioned this in quite a few videos in the past. This is a Alocasia lime zinger. As you can see, I've gone around with scissors and I've cut back all these stems because they were just drooping. This one is very notorious, I have found, for spider mites. I've struggled with spider mites a lot with this plant. Just this one in particular. I mean, like, I had some on the Calathea there, but out of all the plants, this is the only one. Even, you know, like this Alocasia, all of Alocasia and Calatheas that I have, this is the worst one. But it's got nice pretty leaves. They're quite bright. They're green. They're a lot smaller. But these are also ones that can go dormant in the winter time, so just be mindful with your watering. When they do, they can usually keep their leaves throughout the winter, I've noticed. And I think last year this one had kept its full-size leaves throughout the whole winter, and then come spring it resumed its growth, and it kept putting new growth out that was bigger than the last. But this winter I kind of went on the deep end and just jumped headfirst into overwatering it, putting it into shock, and drooping leaves. I wouldn't say tempted on throwing the plant out, but I put it in a corner and said, you can stay there. And then I gave it a couple days and thought, no, like I'll give my luck another try here with this plant. So yeah, with this one, I only gave it a little bit of water, and it seemed to hang in there for the winter. So far. And yeah, so those are struggling plants. Also, Aglaonema, Chinese evergreen. This is the Silver Bay, I believe. Does have some of these leaves that sort of just like mush and wilt. I've noticed that they don't really turn yellow, these lighter colored leaves. Some of the Aglaonema, or like this one here, Dieffenbachia, I forgot to water this one for a few days, so it has a little bit of yellowing, but it's just the one leaf. It's also a lower, older leaf, so not to worry. But yeah, so this one here, they do not like to be overwatered, and when you do overwater them, they quite quickly their leaves turn to sort of like this mushy material. They can get a little yellow, but it's more so just like, I don't even know, a completely wilted leaf. And it's quite tricky to try and fix that. They are very slow growers, so it's something to be mindful of with Aglaonema, because once you overwater it and you lose a bunch of leaves, getting them back, getting to encourage it to put out new growth can be quite tricky. And yeah, I think that's about it. So for plants that have done really well, I would say Monstera deliciosa. This one, like right up here, it's got tons, it's kind of hard to see, but here's one of the leaves. They're just growing like crazy. Most of them, I think I have about 3. Give them moss pulls, and they really like it, I guess. It's just sort of that support that they can lean up against as they grow. None of the Monstera deliciosa have attached themselves to a moss pole yet. Not like my Swiss cheese vine, the Monstera Addisoni. That one has fully attached to a moss pole. But yeah, they seem to be putting out new growth and just loving it. Giving them bright indirect light. I'm making sure that I'm not overwatering them because, like all plants in the wintertime, especially aroid plants, they can quite quickly go downhill if they're overwatered. What's another one here? So out of all the Calathea, and this one here is Stramanthe. This one here is a Tenanthe burley marks, and it is quite big. And it's one of the plants that it's like a Calathea, like a Stramanthe. It's a prayer plant. These leaves move a lot, but it has got some of the most beautiful foliage I've ever seen. Like, it's like mesmerizing, like zebra print, and then on the back side you have like this sort of burgundy, dark purple, maroon color. And this one here is also, it grows quite quickly, and you can see it's quite a larger, bushier size. So I'm very, very careful not to overwater this plant. It's in a cover pot. Let's see if I can take it out of this pot. There we go. So, yeah, it's just in a cover pot here. I always like to take them out, make sure that they're dry, not sitting in like a pool of water at the bottom. But yeah, just in its original 6-inch pot. Nothing too special. There's no like crazy roots coming out of the bottom. Calathea, I've definitely noticed they like to be root bound, and you can let them get quite root bound before you have to change them. And the less you change the pots or the soil, the better, because with quite a few of my Calatheas in the past, I've gotten them, got excited, put them in a nice cute little terracotta pot or gave them fresh soil, and they just sort of suffer from the beginning. So, but yeah, this is, if I can hold it back here, this is the Tenanthe burley marks, I think, yeah. So, beautiful plant, one of my favorites for this winter. Out of all the plants that's very humidity sensitive and prayer plant, like most in general, it's actually done really well for itself. Another one that's done really well is sort of, this is just a small example. The rest I kind of struggled to get to because they're on a plant pole in our living room and they're quite high up, but this one isn't. So this is a Hoya retusa, also known as a grass Hoya. As you can see, it's not very big, it's not overly bushy, but it's healthy. It's a very happy, healthy plant, and I've never gotten Hoyas. Well, one, I've had them in the past, they don't really live that long. When I first started getting into houseplants, they were one of the plants that I saw, and I was like, oh, like, they look really nice when they're full, and they're bushy, and they're hanging down, cascading with this sort of waxy green color. But these ones here, I've started to notice, you can just, like Hoyas, just let them dry out. And I've been letting mine get quite dry. And when I water my regular plants and I go around and I see the Hoyas, and I'm just trying to remember when the last time was that I watered them. And you can wait quite a while as long as the leaves are not getting extremely shriveled up like prunes. But it's actually, I'll see if I can show you, it's flowering too. The other ones that I have in the living room, I have a Hoya pubicalis, Carnosa compacta, the Hindu rope. I'll post some pictures of it here. But you can see it's got a cute little white flower with sort of a maroon, I don't know what the real scientific word is for it. Sort of these little, a red maroon color flower inside the white flower. There's a couple more down here you can see. So yeah, just sort of a unique plant, but this is, I think I watered it 3-4 days ago, and it's still got some water weight, so I'll probably wait another 2 weeks, a week to 3 weeks before I water it. Just don't overwater it. I pick them up and I'm like, ooh, this is cork. It's like nothing in there for water weight. And then you can give it some water, or you can wait another day or two. Doesn't really matter. They're pretty hardy plants when it comes to being dried out. Another plant that seems to be doing really well is, there we go, this one. I got this for my birthday in September. An Calathea purple sword, maybe they call it. I'll leave the name down below. But yeah, putting out lots of new growth. The leaves are quite long, and because I have it sort of on the corner of the table with the grow light directly sort of above and at this angle behind it, the leaves are sort of turning so that way they look, or they're facing the light. So you can see how they're all sort of curved over to one side. It's just to help it get a little bit more light for the winter. And then the plants that I am looking forward to in 2021, they are plants that, the ones on this list are ones that I haven't had before. They are a little bit more on the pricier side, but they're from the same family that I've found to work really well. They're not Calathea, they're not Stramanthe, they're not those sort of temperamental plants that I've struggled with, which I'm going to start to I might still acquire them once in a while, but I'm not going to go out of my way to find them. Plants that I am, however, going to have on my wish list are ones like philodendrons, or what's another one, Anglionema. Those ones, they seem to do really well for me throughout the winter, throughout the summer. Care requirements aren't too drastic when it comes to humidity or pests. They're not as prone to pests, I've found. So I don't have photos of them, but I am going to leave a list of them on the screen and description of them down below, so feel free to check those out. So for starters, a philodendron, there's two of them. They're both very closely related, but one is a Philodendron Gloriosum, and the other is a Philodendron Pastazanum. Now, I think the Pastazanum is a hybrid with some Gloriosum in it. So those plants are like the Philodendron, but they can grow almost like this Calathea here. Like, they have the long stems with the oversized, very bold leaf at the end, and it's usually quite a large leaf. And with the Gloriosum, they have this very, I believe it's sort of like a glossy, huge leaf. Almost looks like an umbrella. Like, it's beautiful. And then you get the Pastazanum. I believe, if I'm not mixing the two up, the Pastazanum has almost more of a velvety leaf, kind of like this one here, with the white veins running down the leaf that you can really see. And then Anthurium. So Anthurium, let's see if I'm saying this right, villenaorum. I think if you say it fast, it sounds better. So that's one of them. And Bullatus, and a crystallinum. So crystallinum, it's a little bit more easier to find, a little bit more common, but they're much like this Calathea, or not Calathea, Calathea. They have the velvety leaves, they have the bright streaking veins in the leaves, but with the crystallinum, it's more of a silver shimmer, kind of like the shimmer you get from a silver pothos, or a Scindapsus pictus. The sort of the silver veins are really contrasted with sort of the dark leaves, so they look really cool. But those plants there that I listed, they are a bit more expensive, they're harder to find. I'm not usually one to really seek out rare plants. These are just plants on my wish list. I'm not really going to go out of my way to find them. I am not huge on the whole plant hype because I know back in the fall or the summer there was quite a craze over plants. A lot of people were starting to get into houseplants, and there was robberies, there was a bunch of crazy things that I do not support. And so by listing these plants, I don't want to say like, oh, I want to get into this plant craze of super rare exotic plants. Like, that's not what I'm into. I'm into plants that I really enjoy, something that I can care for and I can look at and really see like the beauty in it. And that's kind of why I struggled with this orbifolia, because I haven't been able to enjoy it. It's stuck in a humidity box that I can't take out really once it's sort of recuperated, because then it just goes right back into a brown dying state. So yeah, so that's it for this video. Just a couple plants that struggled, survived, thrive, things like that. So hope you guys really enjoyed. Thanks again for watching. Thank you everyone who likes the videos, subscribes. It's really helpful just getting to hear from everyone to see what you like, what you don't like in the videos, any tips or tricks. Feel free to check out my website, houseplantsgonewild.com. I'm going to be doing a lot of editing on that site pretty soon. There's some things that need to update, just little things here and there, such as like there's the Sansevieria lauretii. It's no longer known as a Sansevieria, it's a Dracaena now. So those are snake plants too. So yeah, that's it for this video today. Thanks again, you guys, for watching. Once again, my name's Kelly, and this is Houseplants Gone Wild.